What's going on, guys? Farzin Masukian here with you. Thank you for joining me for this edition of the Chiefs Zone podcast. It is a Friday morning, so I appreciate all of you guys joining me on this Red Friday early edition of the Chiefs Zone. We usually don't do podcasts this early in the day, but there was some news that came out yesterday about the Chiefs, and I think some interesting reactions from around the league about the Chiefs in the news that came out involving Rashee Rice and Josh Simmons that we definitely need to get into here. And also some predictions, some interesting predictions are being made publicly about the Chiefs. Obviously, you know, we're in mid-June. There's not going to be a lot of NFL news. This is really the down period for NFL news for the next 30 days, really until teams return and start training camp again, as that has been announced. We went over that the other day. We now have the dates for all of the 32 teams in their training camp. I believe the Chiefs are on July the 21st. I'll pull that up real quickly just to be sure, but we now know when the NFL teams, and everyone's going to have a different day. The Chiefs are going to be doing a little different this year with having rookies and veterans starting at the same time. And Andy Reid mentioned that the rookies have gotten off to a good start, and they don't have enough. I didn't realize this. Didn't have the, I guess, the required number of rookies to participate in training camp just with the rookies and quarterbacks. Because you got the quarterbacks, obviously. You only have one rookie running back, two rookie running backs. Offensive line, there are only three, and they're all on the left side, either a tackle or a guard. I lied. There is a fourth rookie at right tackle there, but yeah, not enough, obviously. So yeah, on the defensive line, there's only, let's see, you have Omar Norman Lon, Ashton Gelati, Keziah Izzard. Yeah, you don't have a lot of rookies to work with this year. I didn't realize that. There are a lot of rookies in the secondary, but in general, I guess not enough to have it just for rookies in training camp for those 3 days. So yeah, it makes sense. Understandable. So I'm glad Andy Reid explained that in his press conference yesterday. Like I said, a lot of things to get into here. For those watching live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, appreciate you guys. Hope you're all having a great day. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, please let your friends know. Share the links, if you will, and let your friends know about the podcast. Gatlin.countryman is asking on Instagram, do you think Rashee Rice could shave his head too? The media day photos are coming out throughout the week, and they showed Rice. Or I'm sorry, not Rice. Hollywood and Worthy doing a duo together, a duo photo, and they both shaved their heads this offseason, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know, maybe Patrick got a haircut, Hollywood, Worthy. I mean, Worthy's situation was a little different, as we all know, but allegedly. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. At least that's what a lot of football fans think. Before we get any further, I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. I got my Chiefs tickets. I've gone to 4 Royals games this year. You guys want to go to college football games coming up very soon? KU, K-State, Mizzou, Chiefs football, or if you live outside of the Kansas City area, you want to catch some sporting action in person, you can do so at SeatGeek. And if you're a new customer, you can use my promo code Farzine and you will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can put in my promo code Farzine and get $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. All right, let's get into the big news that came out yesterday. And it was that the Chiefs, specifically Andy Reid, announced in his press conference as the Chiefs wrapped up mandatory minicamp and all of the spring/summer practices, whatever you want to call this time of year, I guess. He made it clear that Rashee Rice and rookie left tackle Josh Simmons are full goes for training camp. Yes, you heard that correctly. They're expected to be full participants, no setbacks, no holdbacks whatsoever, no limitations. They are expected to be full participants in training camp. Now, is it possible that they see Josh Simmons or Rice on the first day. Maybe they decided they want to hold them back a little bit. Sure. Like I said, they start camp on July the 21st. So you have some time. And what is the Chiefs preseason schedule? I know that came out, but their first game is August the 9th, and it's going to be against the Arizona Cardinals on the road. So, I mean, you've got some time to figure things out from July the 21st to August the 9th. If someone has a setback, they want to limit them for a little bit. That can always change as you go. But the expectation is that Rice and Simmons, they're healthy. They've made a full recovery. They're practicing. They're going full speed. They'll be available day one of training camp. And, knock on wood, that they'll be ready to go for week one. Obviously, Rashee Rice, we're still kind of waiting on his situation right now. His court date is coming up on Monday or Tuesday. Let's see. Today is the 20th or the 21st, the 22nd. Yeah, the 23rd. Monday is when he will have his court day, his trial date. And we'll obviously learn a lot there. And from that point, we'll see if the NFL decides to go with any consequences moving forward. And listen, he's going to take a suspension. When is that suspension going to come? I don't know. The NFL takes forever on these things. First of all, they're waiting for this court date. And then even after that, we don't know when the suspension is going to come down. It could be made right away. It could be a year from now. It's always weird with the timing of these things. But I've said this many times. I don't think people realize he's not going to get a hefty suspension. I think in the moment with what happened, you're thinking, oh, this could be a half season suspension. But the longer this just goes on for, I think it's going to be a smaller suspension. So I would not be surprised if it's 2 to 4 games. I mean, Alvin Kamara did something far worse. Listen, I'm not justifying what Rashee Rice did. But for those who remember that morning when the footage came out, I was on here being very critical of that. I have no tolerance for people who get behind the wheel and do things they shouldn't do. I've made that very clear. I said that with Rice, and I said that about Britt Reed when that incident occurred. Same with Henry Ruggs. And in fact, we just talked about it because Henry Ruggs had a special release he was granted to talk to, what is it, Hope for Prisoners event, whatever that was. Listen, I'll never sugarcoat that kind of thing. He will get a suspension. I just don't think it's going to be as big. Alvin Kamara, like I said, got 3 games, I think, and what he did was far worse. So, I'm just letting you know, you're going to hear a lot of angry people outside of Kansas City when they're expecting a much bigger suspension, and it's not going to be the case. But as far as Rice and Simmons being healthy, what does this mean? Let me start with Rice here, because what were we talking about a year ago this time? Well, we talked about how Rice got in trouble, but we learned that the NFL is going to hold off on their suspension that they're going to give out until the whole legal matter is sorted out. So we knew he was going to be available last year. We knew Hollywood coming in was going to be a very important part of this offense. And then they drafted Xavier Worthy. Now, how much of that was in fear of Rice being suspended? I don't know. But the league obviously held off on that. And the hype was that you have Rice, you have Hollywood, you have Worthy. I mean, this is a really good trio here. And Rice, the first 3 games, I'm not even counting the 4th game because he only played 5 snaps in that one. That was when the Chiefs committed 2 turnovers in 5 offensive plays. Rice was looking like a top 5 wide receiver. Like, there are a lot of players who come off their rookie season and they do have that nice growth from year 1 to year 2. When I still remember, and this was mentioned by on Sirius XM NFL Radio, Charles Davis, I think, or maybe I'm mixing him up for someone else, but his co-host Liger Duzable was mentioning this as well. That week 1 opening night game against the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I'm watching Rashee Rice in that game. He looked like a 10-year veteran, a guy who knew how to run his route, how to create separation. And as soon as he got the ball, he just found a way to beat his defenders and really dominate that game. Rice was a huge part, and he didn't score in that game, But boy, without him, I don't think you win that game. I know a lot of people remember that for Isaiah Likely stepping out of bounds and whatnot, but Rice had a really big game that night against the Ravens and had another big moment against the Bengals with that deep pass touchdown from Patrick Mahomes. Had another good game against the Falcons. I mean, Rice did it. What bad thing did Rice do? And I know this is a very small sample size, only 3 games. And like I said, I'm not counting the 4th game. But those 3 games Rice played, what flaws did you see in Rice? And again, I know we're talking about 3 games. It's a very small window, but for 3 games, still, I really didn't see many flaws in Rice's game last year. This guy played lights out. And I know he had been training a lot with Hollywood down south in Texas, and I know they've been doing it again this offseason. This is someone who really escalated his level of play to another level. I'm trying to think of players from year 1 to year 2 and the growth and the jump they made. And I'm not counting Patrick Mahomes because he hardly played in year 1. He just played in that last game of the regular season when the Chiefs had all their backups in there. Kareem Hunt played just 1 drive so we could get the rushing title that year. The Broncos had their starters, but eventually they started pulling them throughout the second half. I'm just trying to think, like, who in Chiefs history has had that really massive jump from year 1 to year 2? Rice looked like he was going to have it up until that injury. And, speaking of injuries, and I'll get to Josh Simmons shortly here, but we all know the story with Kansas City last year. You lost Hollywood on the first preseason snap. You lost Rice in the 4th game. You lost Pacheco in the 2nd game. I mean, what went right for Kansas City in terms of availability and the offensive tackle play? I mean, you lost you lost wide receivers. Juju got hurt and missed some time last year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was not available, and I know CEH was not someone that was highly viewed, highly regarded by a lot of fans, but think of the year before in 2023 when the Chiefs had all those drop issues, which they still won the Super Bowl, by the way. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was one of the very few players who was not dropping passes, or at least not committing as many errors. I know he had that fumble in the playoff game against Miami, but that was like late in the game when people were already heading out the door at Arrowhead because they were pretty damn cold at that point. But he didn't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire available to him last year. Lost Pacheco. I mean, you lost multiple running backs and wide receivers last year. And by the way, your offensive tackle play was that. And I have to credit Lindy Sports here because, and I'm a big fan of Lindy Sports. I actually just picked up their magazine last week for college football and for the NFL. I love the work they do. I know a lot of people have their preferences. I know Phil Steele's a really popular one out there. But I've always been a big fan of Lindy's football and the work they do. And I think Matt Derrick was the one who wrote the piece on the Chiefs. And he talked about how the Chiefs haven't really had good offensive tackle play since letting go of Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. And I've been saying that for a long time. Orlando Brown didn't work out. You draft Wanye Morris. You draft Kingsley Suamataia. You sign Juwan Taylor. You bring in DJ Humphries midseason off the street. Donovan Smith the year before. No, didn't draft Donovan Smith, but signed him in free agency. I mean, the Chiefs have tried everything. They've traded for guys. They've tried to sign former Pro Bowlers. They've drafted a lot of players at that position. And the offensive tackle play has not been very good. As long as you have that pass protection, Rice is going to be a big factor for the Chiefs. Holly's talking about Worthy going to have that massive jump from year 1 to year 2 as long as he stays healthy. Yeah, I mean, I said Hollywood. Worthy really did come into his own. In fact, I think Worthy had a very similar season to Rice last year. I know a lot of people mentioned it in Kansas City, and whenever you watch games like on CBS, the broadcasters would show a comparison of Rice and Worthy and how they progressed during their rookie seasons, and you really saw a mirror image of those two. And right now you have Worthy and Rice on rookie deals. So these are two young guys who are going to be on the team for at least a couple of years. I say at least a couple of years because, the Chiefs do have these complicated salary cap deals that they're going to have to figure out as they go on. Right now they're trying to figure out how to keep Trey Smith. But that's a topic for another time. For now, you have those two guys on rookie deals, and you got to take advantage of that kind of thing because the way that this receiving group looks right now, you got Rice, not necessarily known for his speed, but he looked faster last year. He certainly looked like a grown-ass man. Did not look like a guy who was coming off a rookie season. And I'm sure part of it was some personal maturity as well, given what happened off the field last year. You have Hollywood Brown. He's always been known for his speed. And I know there's been some inconsistency with his availability. Unfortunately, we saw it in Kansas City. But why are the Chiefs bringing back Hollywood? Because with a guy like him, it is worth the risk. It is worth bringing him back, given his skill set. I'm sure the team would have loved to bring back DeAndre Hopkins, but unfortunately, Hopkins just isn't the receiver he once was. And maybe he regenerates himself in Baltimore. We'll see. But I do think it was the better move to let DeAndre move on and continue with Hollywood. Because, again, as long as the offensive tackle play is good, which we'll get into shortly, everything else is going to fall into place. You look at the other wide receiver the Chiefs have, Xavier Worthy, the fastest guy to ever run a 40 at the scouting combine. And then you look at the depth. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's got some speed, also willing to do the dirty work, the blocking and whatnot. You have Jalen Royals, who a lot of people were really excited when the Chiefs got him. I saw a lot of Chiefs fans put him on their mock drafts, and so a lot of people were really excited when the Chiefs got him. And I'm curious to see what he does as a depth player. Obviously, this is not someone who's going to have 1,000 receiving yards. But how much can he get involved whenever the Chiefs substitute, rotate players out, or they have a 4-wide, 5-wide set? I think those are your for sure 5 wide receivers: Worthy, Brown, Rice, Royals, and Juju. Now, who comes after that? I think Nico Remigio for sure has got a spot on the team because I think he's going to be an important piece of your special teams unit. I know Worthy's getting some looks on special teams, as is rookie running back Brashard Smith. But I think Remigio is going to be an important part of that unit as well, the returning unit. So I think he's going to get some looks at wide receiver as well. So you've got 6. Who's 7? You have Sky Moore, and I know Sky Moore. What was the scouting report saying? That the guy can make players miss. He's got good speed. He can go out there and create separation. Okay, that's great. But if you can't catch the ball, the rest of those skill sets don't matter. You have Justin Ross, who the Chiefs got as an undrafted free agent in 22 because of the injury, and. Listen, I guess the jury's still out on Justin Ross. I don't really know. He was on the practice squad last year, and nobody claimed him off Kansas City's practice squad. Nobody. I'm not sure realistically what is the future for Justin Ross. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from him. You also have Tyquan Thornton, who has been getting a lot of attention locally from OTAs and mandatory minicamp. This is a guy who has a good skill set. Now, why was he on New England's practice squad? I don't know. Listen, Juju got cut by the Patriots, and when he returned to Kansas City after the preseason, he had a couple of big games. Listen, I get these comments. People say, Juju sucks. He's not good anymore. Tell that to Buffalo's defense. I don't think Buffalo's defense got the memo that Juju supposedly sucks. Because Juju had a pretty significant AFC championship game. And in that Monday night game against the Saints, he was pretty important in that one too. And keep in mind, that was, I think that was the first full game the Chiefs did not have Rashee Rice. I might be off by a week. But Juju had a pretty big game in that one. I like the depth at the wide receiver room now than last year. Listen, I would have said the same thing about last year's wide receiver room. I thought Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore would have been good as depth players rather than being the guys who you rely on as starters like they were 2 years ago. But the injury bug, unfortunately, what was too bad with the wide receiver room that Worthy was thrusted into the situation where he had to do all the expectations from Hollywood and Rice. I mean, that guy was pushed into this number one receiver role that he was not really expected to do so early in his time with the Chiefs. Juju got involved a lot earlier and sooner than expected. Hopefully that's not the case this year with guys like Jalen Royals or Tyquan Thornton, whoever ends up being a part of the 53. But I think those are your 7 there. Worthy, Brown, Rice. Let's not forget about that duo. I was trying to hype that up last year. Royals, Juju, that's 5. And I think Nico Remigio is 6. 7's going to be between Sky Moore, Justin Ross, and Tyquan Thornton. I would love for it to be Justin Ross, but there was that report a year or two ago that I think it was 2 years ago, that he's struggling kind of understanding the offense during the 2023 season. Tyquan Thornton, on the other hand, is someone who hasn't really been given an opportunity. He was on Kansas City's practice squad late last year. So I'd be inclined to see Thornton as that 7th wide receiver for the Chiefs. That's a wide receiver I really am intrigued to see this preseason. That wide receiver room, again, guys like Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Tyquan Thornton, Nico Remigio, Jason Brownlee, Elijah Badger. I'm curious to see how those guys do in the preseason this year, because there's going to be a battle for those 1 or 2 roster spots at wide receiver. And again, I know I mentioned Nico Remigio's name in there. I do think he'll make the team because he's going to be an important part of special teams. Now, as far as Josh Simmons goes, this is a huge one. This is pretty significant here. In fact, I mentioned Legar Duzable in his comments. He was talking about this on Sirius XM NFL Radio yesterday, and he called it monumental. He used that word a couple of times. Now, it's funny because with his prediction, he's saying that he thinks Denver's going to win the division, but then he did the whole reverse prediction where he's like, oh, maybe Kansas City can make another Super Bowl run if Josh Simmons is healthy here. Listen, the note on Josh Simmons is that he is the best offensive tackle from this draft class. The reason he wasn't the first or second or third guy taken is because of his injury last year, a season-ending injury, missing out on Ohio State's national championship run. And if you followed Ohio State closely, you'll know they had some issues on that left tackle spot, despite finding a way to win the national championship. So, and we just went over the offensive tackle woes from over the years. Is Josh Simmons the guy? I mean, you hope so. You know, if you play the lottery so many times, at some point you would hope that maybe you don't get all the numbers correctly, but you hope you get 3 of the 6 or 4 of the 6 numbers. You're hoping you get one of those numbers right in Josh Simmons. You're hoping that he's going to be one of the guys that comes through for you, because Kansas City really needs this. And I mentioned this on Wednesday's podcast, and I'll say it again now. I said this back in 2018 when Mahomes had his first full season and whatnot as a starter. And I said, there will be a time where he'll have to play without Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's no longer on the team. Kelsey, we're anticipating that this could be his last year, maybe 1 or 2 more after this. We'll see. But he's getting close to the point where he'll play without Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey for the first time. I mean, yes, 2023, the season opener, Tyreek had moved on. Kelsey was injured for that game. I'm not counting that. I'm talking, no training camp and whatnot with Kelsey and Hill. that day's going to come. As long as Patrick Mahomes has a good offensive line, and there are some great pieces on that offensive line right now, Patrick can win with just about any pass catcher out there. Now, it's hard to do like it was in 2023 when MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, they were all dropping passes. So hopefully you have just a solid receiving core. I mean, listen, looking at the wide receivers right now, and I know we highly view Worthy, Hollywood, and Rice, and I'm not saying that's incorrect at all. Listen, Rice has not earned the top 10 status for a wide receiver yet. He's got to play a full season to earn that. And if he plays the way he did last year for 2025, whether he comes off a suspension or not, we'll see. If he plays the same way, yeah, he'll be viewed as a top 10 wide receiver. You can't deny that. Travis Kelce, I don't know statistically if Travis Kelce is going to be better this year than last year, but I think the way he'll get involved will be far better. Because the way I'm viewing this, and I said this a year ago, but the problem was we had all these injuries that occurred, so it didn't end up coming to fruition. But right now, when you look at Kansas City, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got Rice, you've got Hollywood, you've got Worthy. As long as Simmons it lives up to expectations, I think you'll be fine. You know what kind of players Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are. I'm not going to waste your time going over those two because we know how great those guys are. Creed Humphrey is easily the best center in the league right now. Trey Smith, if he's not the best guard, he's got to be viewed as the second or the third at the least. Your two big question marks on the offensive line are right tackle and left guard. With Jawan Taylor, listen, he'll have up and down games. Obviously, penalties are a big issue with him. And it's going to be a lot easier to get out of his contract this year. And we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, if he plays much better this year than last year, sure, you would be glad to keep him for 2026. And the left guard spot, Kingsley Suamataia, I think with his size and stature, he's probably going to be better suited at guard than tackle. I mean, playing at tackle was just too fast for him, unfortunately. Which sucks because I had high hopes for him. Everyone had high hopes for him. But, he's a second-round draft pick, so you don't want to give up on him right away. You give him a chance at guard after trading away your elite All-Pro to Chicago. So I think with Kingsley Suamataia, and when you compare him to some of the past left guards over the last 15 to 20 years, his size is very similar to a lot of those as well. So, I mean, if there's a place you want to put Suamataia on this line, left guard's the spot. And he's going to have an important training camp and preseason. We'll see what he does. Buck says, who was really good, but his last year with us, he was more of a burden than a help. We tried to force the ball to him consistently, and every team knew we were going to do that. I don't see a name mentioned. Oh, Hill. I agree to an extent with that. I think ultimately, like with Tyreek Hill, there were games where Tyreek Hill did not dominate statistically, but that doesn't mean he had a bad game. I think yeah, I got you, dude. Autocorrect is a bitch. But I think in general, it's like, I know Tyreek Hill was upset because he wasn't getting enough targets each game. Was like, dude, you have an all-pro wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, and you have an all-pro tight end in Kelce. I mean, you did have an all-pro in those two guys. Sometimes guys are going to get double or triple teamed, and that'll allow other guys to get open. That was the beauty of this Chiefs offense when they had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That's why a lot of people are excited about Chiefs football right now, specifically on the offensive side, because not that you have a Tyreek Hill, maybe Xavier Worthy becomes that guy. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but you do have a lot of speed across the board with your wide receivers. And I think Noah Gray and Travis Kelce are two guys who've got good speed for tight ends. And obviously your running back room possesses great speed too, and Isaiah Pacheco and Brashard Smith, and you've got a good power back there and Kareem Hunt. I know he's not the same running back he once was, but there were a couple of games where we saw flashes of the old Kareem Hunt, in his second seasons with the Chiefs. So I think ultimately this is going to be kind of like 2022 where maybe you don't have a standout wide receiver or just a pass catcher in general. I think the Chiefs will have a 1,000-yard receiver. Would they have two 1,000-yard receivers? That might be, I don't know. I think there will be a couple of guys who will come close to 1,000 yards. Like, if I had to bet right now who I think will get 1,000 yards, I'll go Rashee Rice. But I would not be surprised if Kelsey, Worthy, and Hollywood all come pretty close. Like if they have 800, 900 yards this year. That would not surprise me at all. I think Patrick Mahomes' 2022 season, where he utilized Travis Kelsey, and that was his last, big year as an All-Pro. But then you also utilize Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS and Sky Moore the way they did, and Kadarius Toney when they traded for him during the season that year. I think we're going to have a 2022 type of season this year with the Kansas City Chiefs. Brenda's asking, do you think Rice will get through the season without a suspension? And do we really need Sky Moore? Yeah, Brenda, in case you missed it, we touch on the Rice thing, and I'll go over it real quickly in case you joined late. But as far as his suspension goes, like, who knows? The NFL is always weird with the timing of these things. I remember with Willie Gay and Frank Clark with their off the field incidents. Those two players, I think they got their suspensions during the season. Like, it just came up out of nowhere, and so a lot of people were surprised by it. Because usually when these things happen, like if they had happened several months ago, the NFL should give you a heads up and say, hey, look, we're suspending this guy for 2 or 3, 4 games, whatever it's going to be. And then they just drop the suspension during the season. So who knows when that suspension is even going to come down. But if he does get suspended, it's going to be 2 to 4 games. It's not going to be without a suspension. Now, does that suspension come this year? Is going to be a year from now? I don't know. His court date is on Monday. So we'll have to see what happens there. A lot of questions are going to be answered. Will we get any of those questions answered from the NFL? That we don't know. My guess would be no, because like I said, they take forever on these kinds of things. But the other question about, do we really need Sky Moore? I mean, listen, I don't like to, I'll never sugarcoat anything, but I also don't like to kick guys while they're down. I mean, listen, Sky Moore knows that he has not lived up to expectations. And I'm trying to think, what are like the Sky Moore highlight plays? He had one against Jacksonville where he had that big catch and run play to help put away the game. He had that punt return against the Bengals, his only significant punt return, really. And then he had that corn dog play 2 weeks after that big punt return in the Super Bowl against the Eagles in Super Bowl 57. Sky, that's all I can think of. Sky Moore just hasn't really been that guy for you. There's a reason why they drafted Rice and Worthy and signed Hollywood and drafted Royals and brought back Juju. There's a reason for that. Sky Moore, they've given him plenty of chances, and he just has not lived up to expectations. Someone in the media, I think it was Harold Kuntz from Fox 4, and I apologize if I'm sourcing the wrong person. He mentioned that, so for those who don't know how it works, whenever, like for example, whenever the Chiefs are visiting the Chargers, and this is the game where this happened at, the visiting team, the owners, the general manager, they all tend to sit in the media press box. So they're all there with the rest of the journalists. And when Sky Moore dropped, I think it was a third down, like a second and short or a third and short pass that was thrown his way, which would have been an easy first down, he drops it. And according to Kuntz, Brett Veach did one of these fist pound on the table, like did one of those. Listen, you can't fake that emotion. And I know people will, have a different reaction in the moment versus, maybe even a minute later after it happens. But the point I'm bringing up with that in response to this question about Sky Moore is that I think the front office is really losing their patience with Sky Moore. And again, they want to give him every chance because he's a second round pick. Listen, the Chiefs try to not give up on these draft picks, especially the ones on day 1 or day 2. The only one I can think of they gave up on pretty quickly was Kavari Russell. They gave up on him like 3 or 4 weeks into his rookie season. I think it was 2018 when he was drafted, the cornerback, which ended up being the right move because unfortunately Russell's turned into a journeyman in the NFL. But yeah, the big news is that Rashee Rice and Josh Simmons, they're healthy, they're ready to go, and they're expected to be ready day one of training camp, and hopefully they stay healthy in training camp, and they'll both be ready day one when the Chiefs go on the road for their first game of the season against the Chargers in Brazil. And that, of course, is going to be on September the 5th. Hopefully they're ready for that game. And then 9 days after that, they'll play the Eagles at Arrowhead, and we'll see how that all goes. Real quickly, I do want to talk about the Chiefs, and I guess what's expected from the Chiefs this season. Because I'm just thinking back to last year. The Chiefs had 15 wins last year in the regular season. They were 15-2. Now, when you look at their regular season, they only had one true loss. The Chiefs didn't give a damn about that game against Denver. They put in their backups. They had the 1 seed wrapped up. Yeah, there were a few starters who started that game. They only played for a series. I think the only starters you really saw throughout the game were Shamari Connor and Brian Cook. So they only had one true loss last year. Now, they ended up winning 15 games. Why am I making a big deal about this? Because CBS Sports pointed this out. And if you look at NFL history since 2000, no team has won a Super Bowl the same year they won 15 games since 2000. Now, here's a fun little nugget for you. The Buffalo Bills have not won a road playoff game since Bill Clinton was inaugurated into office. Now, does Bill Clinton being inaugurated have anything to do with the Buffalo Bills not winning a playoff game on the road? No, of course not. That's just a little fun nugget there. You know, maybe you throw a little shade on social media to Bills fans for that kind of thing. But my point is, I don't believe in those historical things. Oh, well, Duke has not beat this team since 1982. It's like, okay, who cares about 1982? But something like this, where you have 8 teams who've won 15 or more games since 2000 and did not go on to win the Super Bowl, I think that's significant. You don't see a lot of 15, 16 win teams. I mean, it was harder before the 17-game schedule to win 15 or 16. Even today, with 17 games, you don't see a lot of 15-win teams. You had 2 last year. You had the Chiefs and you had the Lions. In fact, I'll read you all the teams since 2000 that have won 15 games. The Steelers in 2004, the Patriots had their undefeated season in 2007 up until the Super Bowl. The Packers in 2011, remember that year? That was when the Chiefs handed the Packers their first loss of the season, their only loss of the season. And that led to the Packers having a first-round exit. The Panthers in 2015, they came close. That was when Cam Newton had that phenomenal year. The Panthers went to the Super Bowl, but they lost to Peyton Manning and the Broncos. That was Peyton's final game, Super Bowl 50. And then in 2024, you have the Lions and the Chiefs, each won 15 games. Those are all teams that have won 15 or 16 games. The Patriots from that list won 16 games. Everyone else, all the 7 other teams won 5 other teams won 15 games. There's something to that. There's a reason for that. Listen, I never want the Chiefs to lose. No one ever wants their team to lose. Nobody. Whether you're a fan, you're the owner, you're the general manager, you're the coach, player, whatever. No one ever wants to lose games. But you've gotta learn from your games. And let me put it like this. And I know this may not be the greatest example because he was not a very good head coach in college football, but he's a phenomenal offensive-minded coach. had some success with the Patriots. The 1 year he was in Kansas City, Matt Castle and Dwayne Bowe were Pro Bowlers. They had phenomenal seasons. And I'm talking about Charlie Weis. When Charlie Weis was the head coach of Kansas, I remember the first game KU won against North Dakota State. And I think the score was like 31-17, something along those lines. And Charlie Weis mentioned in his press conference, his weekly press conference after the Chiefs beat KU beat North Dakota State. He said that someone in the media asked, how are the players responding coming off that win? And Charlie Weis laughed. He said, they came in to the building the next day. They felt good about themselves. And the first thing we did is we pointed out all of the flaws from that game. So even if you win a game, in blowout fashion, coaches are always going to point out the things you did wrong, so that you can learn from that and try to avoid that in the future. They'll obviously go over the things you did right, but they want to always focus on the things you did wrong and try to improve on that. And listen, the Chiefs had a lot of close games last year. So there was plenty to learn from, even in a 15-win season. However, you truly do not learn unless you lose a game. And in Kansas City's case, I would prefer it that they actually would lose a couple of games. Why am I bringing this up? Because Rich Eisen, who, listen, if you follow football, the NFL specifically, and you listen to a lot of media, whether it's podcasting, TV, radio, whatever, you know who Rich Eisen is. I don't need to give him any kind of introduction. On Rich Eisen's show, he went through the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, and he picked the Chiefs to go 15-2, the same record as last year. He has the Chiefs starting 8-0, meaning he has the Chiefs losing to Buffalo, because he said it himself, and he laughed when he said it. He said, that's what happens. Buffalo beats Kansas City in the regular season. And then he has the Chiefs losing to the Broncos on Christmas. And then he has the Chiefs beating the Raiders with their backups in Week 18 in Vegas. I don't want the Chiefs to go win 15 games again. And listen, I know that the historical pattern that I was mentioning earlier that some people mentioned in sports. There's another one where it had been almost 3 decades where the MVP did not go on to win a Super Bowl. Guess who broke that curse? Patrick Mahomes. But I never believed that was a real thing. Like the Madden curse. That's a popular one. The Madden curse, even though that really has not been a thing for a while now. Do you really believe that the Madden curse or the Madden cover played a role into players struggling or getting injured? No, that's just something people like to have fun with. But teams not losing more than 1 or 2 games, I think plays a pivotal part in them not going on to win a Super Bowl the same year. So listen, I'll say it. I want the Chiefs to lose at least 3 games because I think, and I'm not, well, I suppose you could count Week 18, depending what happens and who the Chiefs rest and whatnot. But if you lose a couple of games before the Week 18 game, you learn some things. Patrick Mahomes is going to learn some things. Travis Kelce is going to learn some things. The entire personnel, coaching staff, they're all going to learn things. I just feel like at the end of the day, you've got to suffer a little bit. I mean, think of all of us in life in general. Do all of us going around walking as perfectionists? I mean, just think of whatever line of work you're all in. I mean, I'll tell you right now with this podcast, I mean, there have been things that I have done wrong many times in the past, and then I've learned from it and tried to be better about it. Everyone's done the same thing. You never learn if you don't make mistakes. And again, no one wants to see their favorite teams lose. I get that. But I think there's something to that historical pattern of since 2000, 15 plus win teams don't win the Super Bowl. So we'll see how it goes. Blake has a couple of questions. Is a Trey Smith extension coming soon? There are one of 2 ways Trey Smith can play this. And I'll tell you right now, Trey Smith has all the leverage because you just lost your all-pro left guard. You can't afford to lose an all-pro right guard. You just can't. I know Kansas City has been very good in drafting players and moving on from guys like Tyreek Hill and L'Jarius Sneed. But it's not always, I mean, listen, you can't afford to lose 2 all-pro guards, especially when offensive line has already been an issue in the Patrick Mahomes era. Even though the Chiefs have been very good in the Patrick Mahomes era, it could be a little better if the offensive tackle play was better. And you're trying to improve that with Josh Simmons now part of the fold. You lost Joe Thuney. You're hoping Kingsley can be above average. But, man, if you lose Trey Smith, that would be a massive blow, and you would have to really restart this offensive line again, even though you have Creed Humphrey. So here's how Trey Smith can play this. He can do one or two of two things. Either way, he's getting paid. He can get paid right now. Get that right now, which, by the way, the deadline is July the 15th. If he gets paid right now, and if he suffers an injury, God forbid, on the very first snap of the preseason or the regular season, well, you got a lot of guaranteed money coming your way, so no problem. Now, what he can also do is not sign an extension, go be Trey Smith, go kick some ass like you always do, and get an even bigger contract next year. Listen, these NFL players will always try to get every dollar possible. And if he decides to wait, yeah, he could get even more money. The market for guards went up last offseason, which was terrible news for Kansas City because that led to Joe Thuney moving on. They're in this situation with Trey Smith right now. They just paid Creed Humphrey last year. They're paying a lot of guys. They're Harrison Butker, Chris Jones, Creed Humphrey. They're the highest paid players at their positions. And I know Harrison Butker is just a kicker, but it starts to add up eventually is my point here. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know what's going to happen. Blake says, I doubt Trey Smith shows the mandatory minicamp deal. If it wasn't close, he has 23 million reasons to risk fines as he would have every penny back. So I believe they got to be close. Maybe. I don't view it that way. That doesn't mean you're wrong or I'm wrong. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the smarter, listen, I'm a better to play it safe than sorry kind of guy. You just never know when injuries are going to occur for someone. He is better off signing it now because if anything were to happen to him that week 1 game, well, for his sake, he's at least got a lot of money in the bank after that injury. Again, not that you want it to happen, but I think that's just the ideal way to go about it. But boy, if he and the Chiefs can't come to terms on something, that would be tough. That's why I was saying the three-peat had to happen last year because of all the turnover we witnessed this year. But I do think the Chiefs did a good job with the draft and free agency. I mean, free agency wasn't too crazy for Kansas City, but the draft was very significant. And I think it just worked out in their favor that certain guys fell to them, like Josh Simmons, Omar Norman-Lott, Ashton Gelati, Noel Williams, Jalen Royals, Brashard Smith, excuse me. I mean, they've got a lot of good guys they got in this draft here, and I'm excited to see what they all do. A lot of people are comparing it to the 2022 draft. I think it could be a good draft, but boy, I just think ultimately this is a Chiefs team right now. They've got to figure those things out. And by the way, Blake's asking, got to believe the stadium decision is coming soon. I'm only laughing because I said Wednesday. I posted this around 8:00, and I said this right after I ended the podcast, and I said this on the podcast too. I said, would it make sense if we heard something within 48 hours? Which, by the way, that 48 hours ends tonight at 8:00. Probably not at this rate. The reason I had this prediction is because with mandatory minicamp wrapping up, we hear the training camp dates, which we already got, I mentioned. And usually around this time, not every year, but I think with things going on with the Chiefs, it would make sense to hear from Mark Donovan and or Clark Hunt. Mark Donovan has really had the lead on this whole stadium situation the Chiefs are working on right now. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I've kind of gone back and forth. The Kansas one, well, let me say this. Staying and renovating Arrowhead is the cheaper option because even though Missouri's offering 50%, renovating a stadium is going to cost potentially less. And again, I don't know what the cost of a brand new stadium would be. So those are estimates right now. But with the estimate, it's expected that the Chiefs would spend less. Now, even though you would spend $350 million more approximately for a new stadium, you could easily make up for that. I mean, the Chiefs are going to get a lot of money with events, both locally and nationally. Nationally, such as Super Bowl. They'll be in the rotation maybe once every 10 to 15 years. I don't think they'll be as active like Vegas, with SoFi Stadium and a few others, Dallas's stadium, of course. But, that's not the only thing. I think if you build an indoor stadium, I think you can guarantee a college bowl game every year. I mean, people love going to visit their alma mater or their favorite college if they're in a bowl game, even if it's not one of those big bowl games. I mean, you could easily do like a Mid of America bowl type of game sponsored by, I don't know, Sony, whoever. Sony's the first thing that came up because that camera right there is a Sony. That's the first thing I saw. But yeah, man, I think you can find ways. WWE PLEs, Final Four. I think Final Fours for sure you can be in the active rotation for if you're Kansas. If Kemper Arena can get a Final Four, an indoor stadium in Kansas City can get a Final Four for sure and be a part of the active rotation for that. So I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people are hoping. I know there's this weird Kansas, Missouri BS, which I'm not a part of. I don't subscribe to that. There are a lot of people wanting the Chiefs to stay in Missouri because they don't like Kansas. Okay. I mean, I don't know, man. See, Steven is saying preference here would be to just remodel Arrowhead because original left and so iconic. Yeah, I get that. And a lot of people are saying that as well. Here's the thing. And Deron Cherry, who's a great friend of the podcast, he was on KCMO Talk Radio today and he was asked about this. He did say what I've been saying for a long time. Eventually, you'll build a new stadium. Now, he also said you can kick that can down the road 20 or 30 years, depending however many years that deal will be. Here's the thing. And I'm not saying this to push back aggressively against people that don't want indoor stadiums or don't want the Chiefs to move from Missouri. Listen, I think an indoor stadium is the right way. I don't care if it's in Kansas or Missouri, as long as it's done right and it's in a good location. I'm not a big fan of the Truman Sports Complex, the area and whatnot. I do think the Chiefs and Royals need to move on from that area. There's a reason why John Sherman wants to move out of that area. My whole thing is this with the whole stadium talk. Right now, more than 1/3 of NFL stadiums are indoors. Keep in mind, we have 32 teams, but a couple of them share stadiums. So we have 30 stadiums. Rams and Chargers share a stadium, and then the Jets and Giants share a stadium. So a third of those stadiums are indoor, more than a third. By 2031, which is when the Chiefs lease expires with Arrowhead, Jackson County Sports Authority Complex, whether the Chiefs get a new stadium or not, by 2031, more than half the stadiums will be indoors. And I've seen some people say that the Chiefs should not do an outdoor stadium because traditionally outdoor teams don't do well in the postseason. Okay, but if we're going to be at a point where more than half the teams will be playing indoors, I mean, here's the point I'm trying to get at. I think you're going to get to a point where a lot of teams are going to get indoor stadiums. I know Buffalo is building a brand new stadium, and that's going to be an outdoor stadium. Lambeau Field, I know that's iconic and whatnot. I guess they're going to keep that for as long as they can. But I have a very hard time believing Denver is not going to get an indoor stadium. I have a hard time believing that all of these other cities that are not in Florida or Texas, I mean, the two Texas teams are indoors anyway. I mean, we're just going into an era now, man, where you're seeing a lot of indoor stadiums being proposed and built. I mean, if the Chiefs do not get an indoor stadium for 2031, they'll definitely have to consider it even more so for 2061. Listen, it's not a matter of if. The Chiefs will get an indoor stadium one day, and maybe none of us are going to be alive to see it, but it will come one of these days. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Real quickly, a reminder before I get out of here. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Time, former Chiefs wide receiver Garrick Dieter is going to join me on the podcast. Garrick, he's obviously very well connected with the Chiefs. You guys all know that. He and Noah Gray, they are teaming up for a pickleball charity event that'll take place in Kansas City, and that is going to be on July the 17th. That is a Thursday, and it's going to be a really cool event here. And I'm trying to pull up the photo. There it is. This is going to take place on whoops, that's not what we want. There we go. July the 17th, 5 to 9. That's going to take place at Chicken and Pickle in North Kansas City, raising money for various charities in the Kansas City area. So if you guys got interest in this, or if you want to learn more about it, scan that QR code right there. You can also pay to participate in the pickleball tournament. I can tell you there are going to be some sports and media personalities from Kansas City that'll be at this event. Garrick is going to join us. He joined us the week of the Super Bowl. We will talk about this event. And like I said, I know he's very well connected with the Chiefs, so I would love to pick his brain on the wide receiver room and obviously Trey Smith's contract situation, and also get his thoughts on the stadium situation. We'll talk about all of that and much more with Garrick Dieter. That'll take place tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Time. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let your friends know. Share the links, text them, message them, whatever you got to do to let your friends know. Until then, I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Happy Red Friday.